There's a big section on Babyshambles and that kind of crowd. Were they quite good to photograph? Always quite
Yeah, they were
eventful, I
great to
suppose.
photograph. There was always carnage. There was all, I really got along with Drew really well. I remember me and Drew were up for sexiest male one year at the Frog Awards.
The Frog Awards.
The Frog Awards were at Nambucca, and we only did it once. And it was chaos. But me and Drew were up for sexiest male, and as they were about to call it out, Drew stood up before he called it, and it was me.
Excellent.
And yeah, that was a crazy night. I remember Jay had a few beers, and all the Frog Awards were like from what's the garden center in the UK called? Home base or whatever. What is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. And he bought these, like, I don't know, about 2-3 foot tall metal frogs, as that was your award. So I had to go around for the rest of the night with my big frog. And Jay, I don't know how no one died. Maybe this is why it was the last Frog Awards. Threw one into the crowd, like skimmed it into the crowd, and it didn't hit anyone somehow. But it
Oh
definitely
wow.
would have taken a head off. So maybe that's why we ended the Frog Awards. That was a funny night. But yeah. But yeah,
Yeah,
Baby
yeah.
Shambles. Just I remember one night, what was it? He ended up doing 3 shows in one night, and I can't remember two of them. He started off in Ambuca, and Pete wasn't finished playing yet. And the second venue we went to, I can't remember, but the third, we ended up in Infinity. That's where White Heat, the club night, was in Infinity at like 4 in the morning. And there's a photo. If you look up Pete Infinity, you'll find it, and it's just him just strumming his guitar in the basement of Infinity. And I can't remember that we did 3 shows, and everyone was on the bus. We're on the upstairs on the. I think we got the 29. We were just bussing around London watching Pete play. But I mean, the magnetism. I mean, Pete just. I'm so glad he's still alive. I mean, there were times where like, and I think I talk about that in my Times article. I mean, I see footage now with the Libertines. I want to talk to you about that when you went to see them last night. I mean, just the joy in his face when he plays music. I mean, he's just a big boy playing music, and it's
Hmm.
wonderful. And he was the same back then, except he was a little less incoherent. But he had this charm about him, obviously, and that's how he got away with what he did. Like he'd walk into a room and you knew he was there just by the way he walked. Obviously, he's 6'4", and I did see him swing a punch once, and he played a show it was in Camden at this a rockabilly bar, like a barbecue place on the corner. I can't remember the name of it. And it was one of his first shows getting out of prison, and it was all this like, Greg, come down and photograph this show. He's getting out. And he comes in, and I'd never really seen how big he was. And I'd photographed him many times, but he came in, and and as he was leaving, a bouncer tried to grab his girlfriend at the time, this French ballerina, and she was tiny. And I don't know what the bouncer was thinking, but Pete swung for him, man, and he was wasted. So he was kind of stumbling, but he snapped out of it, and he stepped up like a boxer. And I'm telling you, I was like, I never want to be hit in the face by anyone, but I definitely want to be hit in the face by Pete Doherty. I couldn't believe the swing on him. It was like he had a reach. It was like his arm was as long as his body, and but he
Did it
swung for that
connect with him?
bouncer. No, he missed, luckily. But he
All
would have
right.
he would have given the guy a black eye. But I just remember going, Jesus, he might be a zombie, but he can still punch.
Yeah, fair play. I mean,
Yeah,
with it being like such a hedonistic era, I suppose, did that lend itself quite well to photographs as well?
yeah, it was. Yeah, and it was very difficult to take a boring photo with the environment I kept keeping myself in. There was always something to photograph. I mean, there's a lot of photos I've deleted. Not deleted. There's a lot of photos I won't release. I'll just because like just there's a couple of photos of Pete doing. There's one in particular in the frog backstage where he's doing something, and I think that lends itself to the hedonistic. I'm really bad at pronouncing some words. I hope I got that right. Of that period, and the only reason I really published that photo in that collection is because he told me to take it, because one of his miners backstage, he surrounded himself in the weirdest people. But this guy was like, Pete, there's a photographer in here, mate. Let's get him out. And the guy tried to, and Pete goes, no, let him stay. He has to photograph everything. This needs to be documented. And that's the only reason that photo is in there. But there's other photos of people doing cocaine. There's photos of just a lot of inappropriate stuff, which maybe I shouldn't have even photographed. But it doesn't benefit the story. You know, people knew it was happening. I want to
Mm.
lean people in to draw their own conclusions. And a lot of people have wife and kids now, or husbands and kids, or partners and kids, or whatever, or just kids. I'm not trying to leave anyone out with or no kids, but they have a job, or they don't have a job, and their life, or they've moved on. I know a lot of people are sober now that mightn't want to look back at that period and go, I had a great time. They might look back at that period, I nearly died and I hated it. So if there's a photo anyone sees on this, I will take it down straight away. There's nothing in here I'm precious about, you know. So I'm not even sure what your question was, but I think I answered something.
No, yeah, yeah. And for me personally, it's great to see pictures of Pat Walden because they're quite rare. Like I've searched them before in terms of like posting about the pod, and to see some great photos you've taken of him, like on stage and stuff.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that was a good podcast as well with Pat. It was good.
yeah, yeah, no, yeah, really interesting. Yeah.